information about Armenian business environment. I want first of all to express my special gratitude to organizers of this event, Mr. Arsen Manukyan, Jack Antonian, Stepan Biligian and others for the efforts, time and for making this event possible. I would like also to express my gratitude to you for your interest and for your participation in this meeting. Before starting, I would like to make one brief observation about business environment of Armenia. Very often we could hear that businessmen, people investing in Armenia encounter difficulties with business environment in Armenia. My own experience proves that sometimes investors' expectations do not correspond to the existing realities in Armenia. What I will share with you, hope that will help you to make more informed decision, you, your families or your friends, whenever you consider investing or start any type of business in Armenia. For sure, business environment in Armenia differs from the European countries and the United States, but still, I would like to mention that Armenia is considered as one of the open regime countries in former Soviet Union. That's why my message is we do want that Armenia diaspora to come to see Armenia and carefully to study the business environment in Armenia and to make the informed decision about whether to invest or not. Let me now to start my presentation. The first slide is about international economic cooperation of Armenia. Since getting independence, Armenia was actively engaged in the international economic cooperation. Armenia is a member of the World Trade Organization since 2003. Armenia signed trade and investment framework agreement with United States government. Armenia, since January 2015, Armenia joined the Eurasia Economic Union. Maybe you know that five former Soviet Union countries are united in this union. This is the Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Armenia. And according to this Eurasia Economic Union, of these 5 countries have common custom borders. We will talk about this issue a little bit later in the next slide. Armenia is also in a stage of negotiating to sign the enhanced partnership agreement with European Union. However, the new agreement with the European Union shall not contradict to the main commitments of Armenia within Eurasia Economic Union. And the next point is about the Armenia trading partners. You could see that Armenia main trading partners are the Russia, Germany, China, Iran, Turkey, and United States is in the 9th place. What I would like to stress that despite the fact that Armenia, United States government provides huge technical assistance annually, but still you could see that the economic relations Armenia and US is not so developed that I think there is a lot of potential for growing. Next slide about the I would like to concentrate your attention on doing business ranking of Armenia. You see that Armenia is in the 38th place in the World Banking doing business ranking. For comparison, I would like Armenia is in the 38th within 190 countries, and for comparison, I would like to say that Russia in the 40th place, and the Azerbaijan is in 65th. Actually, they are behind of Armenia. Armenia is ranked. This ranking is assessed by the World Bank. Armenia is ranked 33rd by Economic Freedom Index in 2007. This ranking carries out by the Heritage Foundation. And again, for the comparison, I would like to mention that the Azerbaijan is 65, and the Russia is 140th in this. And the Ukraine in the Economic Freedom Index is 165th. That's why my point again, Armenia is considered as one of the most open investment regime countries in the former Soviet Union. And if you have any question, you could stop me and ask. I don't know if.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Does Armenia have economic relationship with Turkey? I saw Turkey in the list.
You know, we don't have diplomatic relations with Turkey, but we have economic relations. Yes, a lot of entrepreneurs. Yes, they mainly the import of goods, not the export from the Armenia, but the import of goods. A lot of goods. Armenian comes from the Turkey. That's why Turkey is one of the trading partners of Armenia. Yeah. Yes.
You said that there is no contradiction having an agreement between EU and Eurasia.
I said shall not contradict to the.
Shall not contradict.
Yes.
How could that be?
Yeah. How it could be? You know, Armenia already takes commitments within Eurasia Economic Union. And that's why it's any new kind of type of agreement with United Union shall be harmonized with this Eurasian Economic Union agreement. That's why this is actually this is commitment of Armenia, international commitment within this Eurasia Economic Union. That's why it's like it should be.
Certainly, it's a lip service of it, but I would like really to see what the contradiction they are talking about.
I mean, if let's say all these 5 countries have the common custom borders, and Russia has its own, not only Russia, these EU countries, Union countries shall may implement the unified policy with European Union and other countries. That's why it's actually a lot of issues are out of the competence of Armenian government. It's already subject of the Eurasia Economic Union under this agreement. That's why Armenia should, if signing any type of partnership agreement with the European Union, shall follow to the commitments already taken in the Eurasia Economic Union. This is my point. Now I would to talk about the details of Armenia legislation, commercial legislation. The first point is about registration of business. What I would like to mention that during 5-6 years, government of Armenia did a good job and significantly simplified the procedure of the registration, business of a registration, or otherwise the registration of a company. Now registration of a company takes only 1 day in Armenia. The Ministry of Justice or the agency under the Ministry of Justice is in charge of the business registration. And another important moment that the registration of a commercial company is now in Armenia is fee exempt. You could see the e-registry AM. This is the website of this agency in charge for the registration of the company. All typical documents necessary for the registration of the legal entity are put in this. You could find in this electronic website, in the official website of this agency. And the required documents are the resolution of the founders, you could see charter by law, application of the state registry, and passport data. What I would like to say that all this procedure are essentially simplified in Armenia, and now it's, as I mentioned, during one day it's possible to register legal entity. And together with the registration of a legal entity, the business owner also receives the tax ID number, and there is no need additional time to go to the tax authority and to get this tax ID number. Next point about I would like to talk, this is the labor relations, the labor code. Armenia, there are different opinions about the Armenia labor legislation. About the, according to the owners of the business companies, Armenia labor legislation is anti-business. But according to the opinion of the employees, they think that their labor rights are not so well protected. Still, are conflicting two opinions and different interests. Maybe this is the reason of that. There are two types of the labor contracts according to the labor code. This is first for the indefinite time period, and the second for limited time period. And one important thing that all registered employees are also registered in the database of the tax authority. This is quite new one. Since 2013, and actually tax authority may see all registered employees in a given moment in the Republic of Armenia. Now the total number of the registered employee in whole Armenia is the 670,000 people, and we call this electronic database that as a personified record keeping system, which is the important. This is very important for the employees in the future, because all how much money, whole information about their salaries and about paid contributions to the tax or to the budget, all of this amount are fixed in this electronic database. And in the future, let's say in 10 years or in 15 years, when the retirement age comes, that there is no need for the employees to take all these different certificates about the labor stage or the years of services. All this electronic database will ensure the retirement benefit for all type of the for all employees, but only in case if they are registered. This is one point, because important point, because we still have a lot of employees working in a shadow economies. This is mainly in construction, and in the agriculture as well. The approved minimum salary rate is 55,000 Armenian dram, which is equal to 120 US dollar. This is amount which this is actually the minimum amount. It's the amount that the nobody could get salary less than 55,000 dram. And salary calculation and payment is exclusively in Armenian dram, despite the fact sometimes the agreements, verbal agreements, are to take place in US dollars, but in reality all calculation and the payment is exclusively in Armenian dram. And employers every month they report to the tax authority on the salaries of the employees of the income tax which they paid on behalf of the employees. Yes, please.
Is that minimum salary on an annual basis?
Yeah,
Minimum.
yeah, it's minimum on annual. No, not monthly basis. Sorry, monthly basis. Yeah. Sorry, monthly basis. Yeah. No, not. Yes, please.
Quick question, going back to registration of a business.
Yes.
Are procedures the same for Armenian citizens and foreigners?
Yeah.
Policies?
There is no. Yeah, for sure. There is no difference. There is no difference. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, please.
Are there any labor unions? Top of labor unions?
Labor. You mean
Unions.
former? Yeah, you mean Pravsayuz? Yes, former Soviet.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
time, yeah.
Yes, yes. There are, but they are weak. Unfortunately, we couldn't say that they have any influence on employer unions. Yeah. Legislation is in place since 2000. That's why. But in reality, what I would like to say that these unions are not so developed and they are not influenced. Yes, please.
Does that minimum salary per month include hospitality employees like waiters, waitresses? Because I would get
Hospitality,
recently-
sorry. What do you mean?
Chai
Wait, wages.
Chai way, tip.
Ah.
No.
You know, this is the official salary. There is no any tips or there is something. This is the official salary which should be transferred or paid by cash to the employee. We are not talking about the shadow economy in a restaurant or other in a taxi. This is the official salary which should be transferred to the bank account. Actually, in most cases, the employers transfers money. The payment of the salary is not by cash. They transfer to the bank account of the employee. It's since 2005, actually, I think that almost all employees transferred to the salaries to the bank accounts of the employees. There is no cash payment.
Direct deposit.
Yeah. Yes.
Is the tax same rate for different salaries, or people pay less tax when we do
Yeah,
salary?
the
More
income tax is progressive. We have a slide about the taxes. Yes, about the tax. Yeah, 24%, 26, and 36. Yes, we will talk about this. And this is another rules of the. You could see another rules of the labor code that contains several limitations on employer. It says that overtime work, the 30% extra payment for every hour of the overtime work. And again, there is a limitation that during 1 week, the people could not be engaged in overtime work more than 4 hours. But this is the rule that for every hours of the overtime work, the employer shall pay 30% extra payment. And if the employee engaged in the work in holidays or weekends, again the payment should be in a double rates. And for the works in hazardous conditions, again the extra payment is within 30%. Another rule that employees are eligible for annual paid leave for 20 working days or for 28 calendar days. And the labor code envisages several benefits for employees with disabilities and for pregnant women. The termination of the contract, there are like the two grounds for the termination of the labor contract, whether by initiative of the employer and by initiative of employee. One specific point about what I would like to talk that if the initiative of the termination of contract comes from the employer shall send the written notification 2 months prior of the date of the termination. But if the initiative comes from the employee, that case employee shall inform employee 1 month prior to the date of the termination of the contract. Next topic is the licensing. The general rule of Armenian commercial legislation is the following, that the companies may run any type of the business activity without any permission. But however, several types of the business activities are subject of mandatory licensing. You could see the list of these activities. This is the pharmaceutical production, healthcare services, gambling, banking, currency exchange, TV and radio broadcasting, internet, mobile phone services, alcohol production, productions of sales, purchase of the sales and purchase of weapon. In a bracket, you could see the ministries or the agencies in charge for issuing of these licenses. There is a general rule that the license to be issued within 20 working days, exception only for TV and the banking licensing, and TV is 150 days and the banking license is up to 1 year. The procedure is in these two cases, the procedure is a little bit difficult and complicated. That's why more time is needed for issuing of these two types of the licenses. And again, there is a general rule that license is granted for unlimited period and no rule on re-examination if there is no breach of licensing rules. Another obligation that the business company shall pay the annual state fee depending on the type of the business activity. One observation that the number of the business activities subject of licensing were essentially decreased for the last 5 years again, and government really did a good job in this sphere as well in order to decrease this type of, because this is licensing is like the ground for the bureaucracy, like it's any type of abuse. That's why government, you could see that for example a lot of type of activities out of this, let's say the tourism or other type of activities are out of this list, which means that starting the next day of the state registration, the company could be engaged in other types of these activities without any permission from the state agencies. Next slide, my next slide is about the real estate regulation. As you know, maybe you know that construction and the real estate were one of the profitable industries of Armenia since up to 2008. But after global financial crisis, this tendency decreased rapidly. And what are the main key regulations with regard to the real estate in Armenia? That all type of the real estate transactions are subject of notary certification in Armenia, and after that the transaction should be registered at the state at the cadastre committee. Currency of the real estate transactions are exclusively Armenian dram. Again, despite the fact that all verbal negotiations and the agreements are take place in US dollars, but in formal point of view, in the transactions certified by the notaries, the currency is Armenian dram, which means that in all investors should convert when they get agreement about the price of the real estate. They should convert this amount into the Armenian dram, which should be mentioned as formally in the contract, in the transaction. All notaries, this is the rule of the law that the notaries ask the certificate that to prove that the real estate is out of any limitation and that it's not blocked or it's not mortgage under the mortgage. This is the special rule why I should pay your attention, because I had a case when the investors were surprised of this rule, but why the notaries ask so many certificates before before certification of the transaction. This certificate gives the State Cadastre Committee within 4 days, and the state fee is 10,000 dram. This is very important that without this certificate, notary will not certify any type of transaction with regard to the real estate. When I say the transaction, I don't mean only the sale contract, I mean also the donation and the rent of the real estate as well. And the state fee for title registration for the giving the ownership certificate is the 46,000 Armenian dram. It takes only, the process takes 4 days, and if somebody wants to get ownership certificate within 1 day, it has to be paid 100,000 dram, and the ownership certificate may be issued within 1 day. What I say, this is all lawful payment. There is no bribe, or there is no. This is what is written in regulations in the law.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before issuing the title, the notary does the title inspection? Because we have heard a lot of instances where the same property has been sold to various people.
Yeah, you know, this certificate is actually for this reason, that the sense of this certificate to be sure that this the given real estate is not blocked and is not sold to any other body, because it's you see, if all titles or all ownership certificates are registered at the Cadastre Committee, not at the notary office. When notary asks this information, this certificate, and it shows that when it's written that there is no any limitation with regard to this property, it means that your place is when you say that the information comes, I don't know whether it's in reality, it's very rare could be happen the case when the same property is sold already to other people, because notary will not certify this transaction. Maybe they get a verbal agreement before with other person and take money unofficially, and then something happens maybe, but not at the notary office, because as I mentioned, the notary will not certify any type of transaction without having this certificate on that the real estate is free of any limitations. It's not blocked, it's not under the mortgage, and so on. Notary service fee is a minimum 20,000 Armenian drams, and sometimes notaries shows arbitrary approach, and sometimes they may reject in certifying the transaction without enough reasoning. And all payment to the notary for the notary fees is a cash payment. You could see also another interesting information about the price of the apartments. You could see in prime location the apartment price for the 1 square meter, 1,000 Armenian dram, the land purchase price, office purchase price, and the rent price and the new construction cost. You could just, if you have any question, please. Yeah, I will not.
These are complete,
Sorry?
finished apartments?
Yes, yes, in a prime location, yes.
Kitchens and bathrooms are all finished.
Yeah, but not fully renovated. The construction considered finished, but it's not renovated inside. It's the price for the prime location, yes. It's $100,000 per 1 square meter.
I'm sorry.
But not in a regions, but when I say that, I mean in a prime location of the Yerevan, or another districts in Yerevan, you could find the less than this money for $500 US per square meter. You could find apartment.
New apartments are sold in new building construction, and they just give you the doors and the windows, and you have to finish the inside flooring, kitchens, bathrooms.
Yes,
And
yes.
most of them are sold like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That 1,000 belongs to that, or? is
Yeah,
it-
1,000 belongs to that. Yes, yes. It's newly, yes, newly, yeah, construction, new construction. Yeah.
What do you consider prime location?
Prime location where we see in a center of Yerevan in not Hüseyin. Hüseyin is like the yeah. In a Komitasa Avenue, in Opera District, that you could find it started from the 100,000 per square meter, but it depends on what kind of again the floor and other conditions also. That's why I say starting from the 100,000 there, but it's up to 2,000, not more, up to $2,000 per square meter. Next slide is about the tax system. Since January 2017, the new tax code entered into force in Armenia. The tax authority in the tax system remains one of the spheres, problematic spheres for the Armenia business. Because still a lot of abuses happening here. What I would like to say that a lot of profitable business companies and medium-sized business companies as well, they outsource their accounting and tax calculation functions to audit companies in order to be sure that everything is in line with legislation and to mitigate risk to be penalized by the tax authority. You could see that the following types of the taxes are envisaged in the Armenia tax code with the rates. This is about the income tax, which this is about your question whether it's actually the progressive. If the salary is up to 120,000 dram, the tax rate is 24.2%. If the more than 125,000 Armenian dram, the tax rate is 26%, and after 2 million dram, which is equal to 4,200 dram, the tax rate, income tax rate, is 30%, which is the good. Which is the good for which the government did a lot of good work in the tax system as well in terms of the reporting, and now the tax reporting exclusively electronically, and the owners of the business don't need to go to the tax authority in order to submit the tax report, paper tax reports, and they could sit in at their offices. They could deliver their tax reporting to the tax authority, and as the invoicing is also in electronically 100%, and which means that there is no any paper-based invoice or paper-based reporting now. And this is really very good, and this make the life of the business owners very easy.
Is this something new within the past year or two, that it went to exclusively electronically?
Yes, it's since January 2013, yes. But electronic invoicing is since 2015. But tax reporting since January 2013 is exclusively electronically, and there is no need to go to tax authority or all companies or directors of the companies have this electronic signature, and they sign the tax report and sent by the yes.
What's the tax rate on investment income?
Sorry.
Investment income.
Invest. When
Tax rate. Do you have short-term, long-term?
Yeah.
Distinguishing?
you know, income tax is the tax which is, let's say, if employees get salary, this income tax is for the employees. Yeah, it's not the tax for the company. This is the tax this is the tax burden. This is the financial burden on the shoulders of the employee, because this 24% or the 26% pays from the incomes of the employee. Let's say if the amount, the total amount of the salary is 1 million dram, let's say, it means that the disposable income of the employee should be not the 1 million dram, but minus 26%. That's why this is not the tax for the investors.
That's income tax.
That's income tax, yes.
So what is
investment?
capital gains?
Capital gain. Now, capital gain is 20%. Capital gain, this is the profit tax.
Okay.
This is the profit tax.
Does it matter whether it's short-term or long-term?
Now, there are special projects if they apply to the government to get a grant for the profit tax, and if they grant it, in that case they could get this privilege for 20%. Let's say to postpone for 3 years or for 2 years. Otherwise, the tax rate for the profit tax is 20%. There is no any differentiation, no. Yes?
Are there any restrictions on transfer of profit? Are there any restrictions?
Yes. Transfer of what?
Profit.
Yeah. If somebody, let's say, if foreign investor gets profit in Armenia, whether any restriction to transfer abroad or not? Yes.
Yes.
No. No. If you already declared your profit, not you, the business company, and you get as a dividend, yes, as the owner of the shareholder of this company, in that case you could take out your money and you made transfer or your money without any restrictions. Do you have any question? I see that you know. No?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
That is a question. The property tax, excuse me, it says 0.3%.
Yeah.
On a property, it says cadastral value. That is the purchase value. Yes?
No, the purchase value could be different because the cadastre value is calculated every year by the cadastre committee, but the market price of the real estate could be higher.
So it's tax based on the market value?
No, not market value, no, but by cadastre value. Let's say, or the market value of the real estate is quite different than the cadastre value of the real estate. All registered real estate at the cadastre committee, they have their cadastre value, which differs from the market value. As a rule, cadastre value is lower than the market value, the price of it. Yeah. Market price is like the sale price, which is,
My
Yes.
question was, for a $300,000 property, say, the property tax is something like $900.
no, if the cadastral value of your property is less than 3 million dram, it means that you shall not pay this 0.3% of the, only if the cadastral value of the real estate exceeds the 3 million Armenian dram, only in that case this tax rate is applicable.
No, I'm saying
Yes,
that if the cadastral value is $300,000,
$300,000.
yeah, for an apartment.
Yes,
Then that person is paying like $900 a year, which is a very low figure compared to our.
yeah, but this is the, yeah. but-
What does it cover? What is it for? It's for the city, yes, for the city expenses, garbage and so on, and the school.
This is no, the garbage is the our electricity. This is the like the services. It doesn't matter whether your real estate big or not. We all have calculators in water supply, in electricity, everything, and you pay these services. It depending of how much you use of these utility payments or utility services. This tax is like only the tax for envisaged in a tax legislation, and this is if the logic is the following: if you have any type of real estate, which is whether the building, apartment, or you have to pay something to the government, to the state budget. The logic is that it doesn't mean that it's not about the maintenance of the property or something like that, because this is a maintenance, again, this is the obligation of the owner to maintain his real estate in a good value. Yeah. Sorry? Condo, what? Yeah. Yes, please.
I wanted to ask you if approximately what percentage of the employee base is above the 2 million dirham? So what percent is it, 30%?
I guess, but only the 3 or up to 5% normal. Only the people working in the banks or in a big companies, only the not the top management or may get the not more than 5%, even less than 5% gets this high salaries. As a rule, average salary in Armenia is about $300 US, which means that actually the applicable rate is 26% for the income tax. Actually, we'll talk a little bit about the tax incentives. You could see that the legislation provides tax privilege for IT startup companies for 5 years. This privilege includes 0% profit tax and the 10% income tax for the employees, and one condition that the number of the employees in these companies should not exceed the 30 people. And in order to get this tax privilege, the company should apply to the special commission under the government, and if they granted this special certificate, they became eligible to pay these taxes in a low rate. And this is what the reason of this, why the government, because since 2001, government declared the IT industry as one of the priority areas of Armenian industry. That's why this tax privilege has goal just to stimulate the establishing the new IT startup companies in Armenia. And the next point about tax incentives, this is the VAT exemption, which granted to the following types of the activities: secondary schools, professional and high educational institutions, music, art schools, printing of books and newspapers, scientific activity, care services, and humanitarian assistance.
Excuse me,
Sorry? Yeah.
what is the import tax? How much is?
Import tax, the next slide, just
Sorry.
just export. Let's first to talk about export duty, and then we will talk about the import duty. The export duty in Armenia is 0%. The goal again, in order to stimulate the production of and export of goods in Armenia and export from Armenia to other countries. That's why the export duty is 0%. What about the import duty? The situation is a little bit complicated and mixed in terms of the import duty because, as I mentioned, Armenia is a member of Eurasia Economic Union, and the unified custom tariff for these 5 countries is 30% in average. But Armenia took privilege do not impose this 30% import duty for 5 years, up to 2022, for the 500 types of the goods. These 500 types of the goods are the goods for first necessity. That's why Armenian governments were asking, we don't know whether they will prolong this period or not. This is subject of negotiation between Armenian government and the Special Commission under the Eurasia Economic Union. But up to now we have, in reality, we have the import duty in Armenia now is 10%. Now is 10%, but the general, as I mentioned, if Armenia will get new privilege for goods of first necessity, again the unified custom tariffs will be applicable, which means that 30%. But another moment, if you import something from the Eurasia Economic Union countries, which Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan, the import duty is 0%.
So the import is at the transfer of the goods, but what if you're transferring funds in order to purchase the goods? Is there an import duty on the transfer of those funds?
No, no. You mean money? Yeah?
Yes.
No, there is no any restriction and there is no anything. We are talking now about goods, yes, about the import of the goods from the other countries to the... and which is the good, I would like to stress this moment that actually having business in Armenia, the companies gets opportunity to export what they would like and import any kind of goods with 0%. I mean, they could import what they would like from the Russia, Belarus, and Kazakhstan, paying 0%. Actually, the market of the Russia and other countries, these countries are open for the Armenian. This is actually one of the benefits of being the part of this Eurasia Economic Union. Another slide is about the free economic zones. This is the free economic zone is a unique tool just to track the foreign investment. If company operates in the free economic zone, gets privilege to pay 0% of profit tax, VAT tax, and the property tax. Up to now, 2 economic zones are established in Armenia, created in Armenia. The first one is Alliance Free Economic Zone, is for production and export of high tech, and the second one is Meridian Free Economic Zone for jewelry, diamond cutting, and watchmaking. And actually, there is a new initiative, Sunik Free Economic Zone, which is close to the border with Iran, and now it's in a stage of the development, this Sunik economic zone, and which is good for the Sunik economic zone that there is no restriction in terms of the type of activities. If you see, this two economic zones are located in Yerevan, and as you see, the Syunik is close to the border with Iran. Yes.
How is Artsakh treated on imports? Is everything transacted through Armenia? Is that how it works?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no direct importing? Does Iran, for example, have a relationship directly with Artsakh, or is everything transacted through Armenia?
No, only everything transacted through Armenia. Yeah.
Thank you.
Business accounting. As I mentioned, the salary payment and the tax calculation, everything is the business accounting is exclusively in Armenian dram. Despite the fact that in the negotiations or in a verbal agreement, sometimes the sides get agreement on US dollars, but in terms of the accounting and the transactions, everything is in Armenian dram. And to meet the legislation accounting standards, and all business companies use Armenian accounting software. And the one thing that Armenian accounting standard doesn't match with the US accounting standards. And as I mentioned that we have a lot of good audit companies and local and foreign audit companies, and the big part of the business companies outsource the accounting and the tax calculation to these audit companies.
Are the accounting standards like IFRS, like what the European Union uses?
Yeah. Armenia joined to international accounting standards, and actually, well, everything is in line with the international best practice and the international standard. The next slide is about the banking. Armenia banking system is considered that most advanced and regulated industries, and currently 17 commercial banks in Armenia, and this is the next point is the answer to your question. No restrictions for foreigners to open bank accounts, and no limitation on conversion and transfer of money or repatriation of capital and earnings to out of Armenia. And most banks actually can transfer funds internationally within 2 to 4 days. Again, but I would like to talk to mention about one disadvantage in a banking system. This is the high rate of the high interest rate of the loans credit for the business companies. Actually, despite the fact that the banking system is very developed, but it's not considered that pro-business because, as I mentioned, because of this higher interest rate, and also the actually in order to get loan more than 2 million dram, the mandatory condition that the business companies or the owners shall put real estate to the mortgage. Without mortgage, it is impossible to get credit or loan more than within amount more than 2 million dram. 2 million dram is actually equal to $4,000. Yes. If you want money more than $2,000, this is the rules are very strict that it's impossible actually without mortgage of the real estate. No bank will provide a loan.
Is the main reason to keep the banks stable?
Is it actually the main reason that they keep the stable? Yeah, one of these. But this is it's good for the banks to keep the stability, but it's not the good for the business because in Armenia this is the one of the challenges for Armenia. There is no long term and the cheap money for the businesses. Yeah,
It sounds like they're not taking big risks, and
yeah.
like lending a lot of money at a lower rate is risky for the banks.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
How many of the commercial banks are foreign owned?
Foreign owner. You know, actually, all monies or all investments available in Armenia comes from abroad, whether it's from Europe or Russia or the United States. Actually, in terms of Armenia legislation, there is no difference whether it's the founder is Armenian or comes from the abroad. If legal entity or the bank is registered in Armenia, it's considered that the nationality of this company is Armenian. That's why it's hard to differentiate to say that this bank. Let's say we have HSBC Bank, which is but again, the HSBC Armenia is the Armenian bank, because it's registered in the Central Bank of Armenia and it's considered that Armenian bank. Or Unibank, the money comes from the Russia, but again, the Unibank is considered the Armenian bank because it's registered and it operates in Armenia. And that's why it's a little bit hard to differentiate, saying that this is the foreign banks or foreign investment, or this is the...
So does it work the same way in Russia or in Georgia with HSBC, let's say?
Yeah.
So it's the same in all the post
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, please.
What is the status of the process of merging several banks into one bigger banks?
Yeah, the process is close to the end, because before we had 21 commercial banks, and now the process is close to the end, and now that's why the Pro Credit Bank. I would like to remember what banks went out from Armenian market, and Arsen Bank, which was the Russian bank, they went out from the Armenia. They sold the shares, and actually we have the 17 commercial banks in Armenia. But before, as I mentioned, we had 21 commercial banks. When I say before, I mean 1 year ago, 2 years ago.
Did they merge to Artsakh Bank?
Arsen Bank merged with Arsen Invest Bank. Arsen Invest Bank. Arsen Bank merged with Arsen Invest Bank. I don't know exactly Artsakh Bank whether it's merged with some bank or not. I need to check this.
Do we foresee further merging process, or it is already stabilized?
No, it's already stabilized. Yeah, it's already stabilized. Because the minimum capital was raised, essentially, it's now the 15, yeah.
10, 15?
No, 50 billion dram, Armenian dram. That's why all these small banks were forced to merge each other in order to keep this balance.
Are there any insurance for the savings of the people?
Savings? Yeah, you mean apart from the bank deposits where they could put their money, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, an Armenian person puts some money in the bank. Is there any insurance or guarantee?
Yes,
protection?
yes, there is. If your bank, the amount of your bank deposit is up to $10,000 US, the full amount of this bank deposit is guaranteed by the central bank. Not that the central bank, there is a special guarantee fund established by the central bank. Actually, they provide for 100% guarantee. If something happens with this, with the bank, if the bank goes to bankruptcy or something like that, yes.
Up to 10,000.
Up to 10,000. If your amount of your bank deposit is more than 10,000, only in this part will be guaranteed.
Now,
But as I mentioned, the banking system is stable, and I don't think that any of banks will go to bankruptcy. It's another point there. All these banks under the strict regulation of the central bank. That's why the possibility that one of these banks will go to bankruptcy is minimum.
Now, is the account guaranteed or the person? What I mean, if a person, there are 17 banks, and in each bank he deposits $10,000. So this becomes $170,000. Are they all insured? Or, I mean, here is different. The account is insured or the person is insured?
Account is insured. Account is insured. But again, the possibility that all 17 banks will go to bankrupt is the possibility is very, very rare. That's
I know.
that. Yeah, I see your point. Yeah, what you are asking. Yeah. Yes.
So it has been said that the central bank guarantees all the deposits, and it has been said by TV, by radio. So I heard personally that.
Yeah.
But in time, I have a question: how it is protected. Usually, if the government or a central bank guarantees something, it has to be done against some valuable, something tangible, like gold, like undertaken material. So what guarantees that
Guarantees
the central bank
that
states?
what I mentioned, that there is a special guarantee fund established by the central bank, and of course it's hard to check whether these guarantee fund are available in this guarantee fund or not. But I guess that it's available. That up to now. No any bank goes to the bankruptcy in order to check whether this amount are available in a guarantee fund or not. That's why somehow it's hard to answer to your question. But what the legislative rules that all banks in monthly basis transfer a certain amount to this guarantee fund. This is like the obligation, and the central bank also puts money in this guarantee fund, and that's why we assume that all money for necessary money for the guarantee of these savings are available in this guarantee fund.
So nobody can check it.
No, yeah, unfortunately, the same way we couldn't check whether the money are in the state budget are available or not. Yeah.
Well, it is actually difficult situation. In the United States, how can we check? In this country, we have the same issue. What you're asking, there's no guarantee here that if people go to bank, they can withdraw their
Can
money.
the United States have gold deposits on way?
So that was the issue with the meltdown.
We send loans. This is how we do it.
Next slide is about professional consultancy services. As I mentioned about this, we have a number of high quality financial accounting and legal companies which offer the professional services, and actually a lot of profitable companies are users of these services. And I don't want to advertise any of them, but you could see the famous brands are also friends have the subsidiaries or branches in Armenia. As the internet and mobile coverage, this is the one point that the internet, mobile and telecommunication actually one of the industry in Armenia where we can see the tangible progress for the last 10 years. And actually multiple internet and mobile service providers are available in Armenia. Maybe you already know them, Vivacell, Beeline, Rostelecom, Ucom. I don't want to advertise, but they offer different type of different services, internet and mobile services. And what is the very important for Armenia, that actually the mobile and the internet services are available in the 98% of Armenia territory, which is actually in all rural areas. Everybody, the internet is available and mobile phone as well. And the prices also for the internet services are also the affordable. The average price is around $1 monthly per 1 megabit. This is like the average. If you want the more high quality services, you may pay more and get it. Another point that the foreign investors shall take into account before coming to Armenia is the visa and the residence. The National Police of Armenia is authorized body for granting the residence permission. Residence permission is given for 5 years to foreigners with Armenian origin, and also to other people regardless of origination if they run in business in Armenia. And also the state fee for the residence permission is 140,000 dram. This is for 5 years, and it's possible to prolong the permission for additional 5 years without any restrictions against for additional fee 100,000 Armenian dram. And as the entry visa is granted for 120 days. The state fee is 15,000 dram, and for more shorter period, 21 days, and the state fee is 3,000 Armenian dram. And entry visa the foreigners could get at the border of Armenian border upon arrival. And what is the important for the US citizens, that US citizens do not need visa to enter in Armenia, again regardless of the origination, whether they are Armenian or not. For the US citizens, they don't need visa to enter Armenia. Yes, please.
If US citizen enters Armenia and stays for a longer term, how long I can stay without the visa?
Up to 120 days. This is the maximum. After that, you should apply for the residence permission, or otherwise you would be penalized. It's considered that administrative violence.
Well, would you happen to know by any chance how long it takes the process of becoming Armenian citizen?
Armenian residents, citizen?
Citizen.
Again, the procedure is very simplified. The application should be submitted to the National Police up to 1 year maximum, not more.
Thank you.
Up to yeah. Next slide, just a couple of slides and we are close to finish here. Next slide is about the judicial system and the dispute resolution. Armenia has a three-level judicial system. We call them free instance judicial system. The administrative court, first instance court, and the single judge. Why we separate this? The single judge has competence to consider the dispute against the public institution. That's why we called it administrative court. The general jurisdiction court is not specialized. This is again the first instance court, and the single judge considers dispute between legal entities and among legal entities or among the natural persons. And this is in the general jurisdiction court. It could be the labor conflict, labor disputes, the civil dispute, or the family dispute. All type of disputes are subject of the consideration in the general jurisdiction court. Appeal court is specialized court, which is the second instance court, and the appeal court has competence to reverse the verdict of the first instance court. And the third instance court is a cassation court, which has the competence to reverse the verdict of the appeal court. And as the alternative forms of the dispute resolution, the one thing that despite the fact that the legislation on commercial arbitration and the mediation are in place. However, these alternative forms of the dispute resolution are not developed in Armenia. And one more thing that I would like to say, that it sounds strange, despite the fact that the people don't trust the state judicial system, but in case of dispute, again, they prefer to apply to the state judicial court, and in rare cases they apply to the alternative forms of the dispute resolution. This is, maybe it comes from the Soviet past, or the tendency coming from the Soviet Union. That's why, again, as I mentioned, they don't trust to the judicial system, but in case of conflict, they prefer to apply to the state court, first instance court. And one more thing, there is different researches which indicate that the court hearing of one case in the general jurisdiction court lasts about 1 year. This is the average, which is too long period. And last two slides, the guarantees to the foreign investors. Actually, we already talked about these points. Armenia is member of the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. Legislation provides guarantee against changes of the legislation on investments for 5 years period. 100% of property ownership is allowed for foreigners. Free and unlimited repatriation of capital and profits out of Armenia anytime and without any restrictions. Unlimited currency exchange on market rates. This is also, if you have Armenian drams, without any limitation, you could exchange it in market rates and transfer your money out of to abroad. And the last thing that I would like to talk about, challenges available in Armenia, that as you have seen, a lot of positive changes has already happened in Armenia, but however, we have several challenges and difficulties which need special effort and attention of Armenian government in order to fix them, to solve them. The first is the inconsistent and sometimes arbitrary enforcement of the laws and regulations by the courts. Next is the undeveloped infrastructure, which out of mainly Yerevan, which poses a lot of logistical challenges for the business. Next is the inadequate or non-sufficient intellectual property rights protection and the enforcement. Again, despite the fact that the legislation are in place in terms of the protection of intellectual property, sometimes the break of the intellectual property breakings take place. And next is the burdensome regulatory regime and the heavy tax administration. We already talked about this issue, that sometimes abuse take place in this tax system. And the next is inefficient regional government, lack of managerial skills and the global vision. This is really big, one of the big challenges of Armenia, because the regional governments, they are not so efficient. Even it was 2-3 months ago that the Prime Minister of Armenia, Karen Karapetyan, advised all the regional governors to go to the American University in Armenia and to take special courses on regional government in order to get these skills of the regional government. And the last point is low-paid and inefficient public employees, mid-level and low-level, working without drive and motivation. This is one of the big issues currently in Armenia, because actually the state officials, people working in the public institutions, in the ministries, they don't have, they have very low salary, and that's why they don't have motivation to work better. This is one of the, in my opinion, one of the most important challenges currently for Armenia. Actually, this is, I would like, yeah. Please, your question, actually, I thank you for your patience and attention. Yes, please, your question.
Yeah, are you familiar with the term and process of crowdfunding?
Sorry, once again, what?
Are you aware of a process of investing known as crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding? I'm not sure, yeah.
Okay, well, it's become a worldwide phenomenon where individuals are, perhaps do not have the resources or interested in putting large amounts of money into a specific investment, but including real estate, companies, startups are acquiring the funding that they need through individuals who aren't accredited individuals, do not meet necessarily a standard of, access to capital or income, etc. And thus, well, I was wondering if that is something that is taking place in Armenia, but it sounds like...
As I mentioned, this is one of the problematic issues in Armenia, that there is no long and cheap money in Armenia for the investment, for the startup companies, for the businesses to be grow. This is the one of the main challenges, as I mentioned. Yeah.
Well, this process would be like, say, Americans wanted to invest in Armenia, or in, started a company in Armenia. There were people there. It could be IT, it could be anything, or it could be.
There is no any restriction. They can do it. Yeah.
And just start, a crowdfunding. Resource, and therefore have a lot of investors, in parts of the world, with each small money, but adding up to a significant amount of money.
Yeah, we have legislation about the contractual funds, and I understand that you are